Trauma psychology is not about weakness. It is about adaptation. It is about how a human nervous system learns to survive environments that were overwhelming, unsafe, unpredictable, or emotionally painful. Trauma is not defined only by what happened. It is defined by what happened without enough support, safety, or resolution. Two people can experience the same event. One may integrate it and move forward. The other may carry it for decades. The difference is not character. It is capacity, context, and care. Trauma lives in the body, not just the mind. It shapes perception, behavior, relationships, identity, and self-worth. And often people don't realize they're traumatized. They just think, this is how I am. This teaching is not here to diagnose you. It is here to help you understand yourself with clarity instead of shame. As you listen, go slowly. Pause when you need to. And remember, awareness itself is already part of healing. Pain point 1. When safety feels unfamiliar. One of the most misunderstood effects of trauma is this. After chaos, safety can feel wrong. Many people assume trauma makes people afraid of danger. But trauma often makes people uncomfortable with being calm. If you grew up in an environment where things could change at any moment, emotionally, physically, or relationally, your nervous system learned that stillness was temporary. So when life slows down, when relationships feel stable, when there is no immediate threat, your body doesn't relax. It braces. This is not because you enjoy stress. It's because your body learned that danger followed silence. For many trauma survivors, peace feels like the quiet before something bad happens. To understand this, you need to understand how the nervous system works. Your nervous system has one primary job: keep you alive. It does this by constantly asking one question: am I safe right now? In healthy development, a child learns safety through consistency, predictable caregiving, emotional attunement, repair after conflict, reassurance without threat. Over time, the nervous system learns, I can relax, I will be protected. But in traumatic environments, especially chronic or relational trauma, the nervous system learns something else. I must stay alert to survive. When danger is unpredictable, vigilance becomes a skill. When love is inconsistent, tension becomes normal. When safety is unreliable, control becomes necessary. So the body adapts. And later, when danger is gone, the adaptation remains. This is why trauma survivors often say, I don't know why I feel anxious. Nothing is wrong. Something is happening, just not in the present. It's happening in the body's memory. How unfamiliar safety shows up in everyday life. This pain point rarely looks dramatic. It often looks functional. It can look like feeling restless during calm moments, overthinking when things are going well, sabotaging healthy relationships, feeling bored or disconnected in stable environments, creating problems when life is peaceful, feeling guilty when resting, needing noise, stimulation, or stress to feel normal. Some people unconsciously recreate chaos because chaos feels familiar. Others leave relationships that are kind because kindness feels unsafe. not because they want pain, but because pain makes sense to their nervous system. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar peace. Why calm can trigger anxiety. Anxiety is not always about fear of what is happening. Often, it is fear of what might happen next. In trauma, the nervous system learns to anticipate harm. So when nothing is happening, the system fills in the gap. This doesn't last. Your body doesn't trust the present moment. It trusts the pattern it learned. And if the past taught you that calm was followed by conflict, abandonment, or danger, your body prepares early. This preparation is not conscious. It is automatic. It happens before thought. The misunderstanding of self-sabotage. Trauma survivors are often accused of self-sabotage, but most so-called self-sabotage is actually self-protection based on outdated information. Your nervous system is not trying to ruin your life. It is trying to prevent a repeat of pain. The problem is that it's using an old map in a new territory. Safety feels unfamiliar, not because it's wrong, but because it's new. The grief underneath this pain point. There is a quiet grief here, because when safety feels unfamiliar, you may never fully enjoy good moments. You may struggle to feel present in love. You may wait for the other shoe to drop. You may feel emotionally distant even in secure environments. And that can lead to shame. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy? Nothing is wrong with you. Your body learned to survive first, not to relax. Relearning safety. Healing this pain point is not about forcing positivity. It's about retraining the nervous system. Safety is not a thought. It is a bodily experience. You relearn safety through repetition. Small moments of calm. Predictable routines. Gentle connection. Learning to stay instead of escape. At first, calm may feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign to leave. It is a sign you are expanding your capacity. You are teaching your body something new, and new things always feel unfamiliar before they feel safe. Pain point 2, hypervigilance, when your body never powers down. The second major trauma pain point is hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is living in a state of constant alert. It is the feeling that you are always on, always watching, always scanning, always anticipating, even when nothing is wrong. Hypervigilance is exhausting, and because it often looks like competence, it is rarely recognized as suffering. What hypervigilance really is, hypervigilance is not anxiety in the casual sense. It is a survival response. It develops when danger was unpredictable and avoidance was impossible. When you couldn't escape the threat, your nervous system adapted by becoming highly alert. It learned, if I notice danger early, I can protect myself. So your system became a radar. This radar tracks tone of voice, facial expressions, mood shifts, silence, body language, subtle changes in behavior. You are not imagining things. Your system is simply overtrained. How hypervigilance forms. Hypervigilance often develops in environments where emotions were volatile, caregivers were inconsistent, anger appeared suddenly, punishment was unpredictable, love was conditional, conflict escalated quickly. In these environments, children learn to read the room. They learn to sense danger before it arrives. This skill keeps them safe. But later, when the danger is gone, this skill becomes a burden. How hypervigilance shows up in adulthood. Hypervigilance can look like being easily startled, chronic muscle tension, headaches or jaw clenching, difficulty sleeping deeply, needing to know what's coming next, over-planning and over-preparing, difficulty relaxing around others, feeling responsible for preventing conflict, monitoring others' emotions, feeling unsafe when things are quiet. You may feel like you can never fully rest. Even during downtime, your mind is active. Your body does not trust rest. Hypervigilance in relationships. In relationships, hypervigilance often shows up as reading too much into texts, feeling anxious when someone's tone changes, assuming distance means rejection, trying to fix things before they break, difficulty trusting reassurance, asking for repeated validation, feeling emotionally exhausted after social interaction. This can create painful cycles. You sense danger, you react protectively, the other person feels accused or controlled, they pull back. Your nervous system says, "I knew it." Hypervigilance becomes self-reinforcing, not because you're wrong, but because fear shapes perception. The hidden cost of hypervigilance. Hypervigilance steals rest. It steals presence. It steals joy. It steals spontaneity. And over time, it can lead to burnout, chronic anxiety, digestive issues, immune system strain, emotional numbness, resentment, relational fatigue. Your body was never meant to live in survival mode long term. Survival mode is powerful, but expensive. The protector role. Many hypervigilant people became protectors early in life. They learned to manage others' emotions, anticipate problems, prevent chaos, stay strong, stay aware. This role can become an identity. You may pride yourself on being responsible, prepared, emotionally intelligent, self-sufficient. But underneath that competence is often a child who learned, if I stay alert, I stay safe. Letting go of hypervigilance can feel dangerous, like lowering your guard. So healing must be gentle. You cannot rip this armor off. You must thank it and slowly loosen it. Learning to stand down. Healing hypervigilance is not about relaxing more. It is about teaching your nervous system that the present moment is not the past. This happens through grounding in the body, orienting to current safety, reducing catastrophic interpretation, co-regulation with safe people, slowing down reactivity. Your body needs evidence, not logic. Every moment of safety you stay present for rewires the system. Even 10 seconds counts. A simple grounding practice. When you notice hypervigilance, try this. Look around the room. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Then say quietly, in this moment, I am safe. This is not denial, it is orientation. You are teaching your body where you are and when you are. One final truth about hypervigilance. Hypervigilance does not mean you are broken. It means you are paying attention when it mattered. The goal is not to erase this skill, but to let it rest. You do not need to be on guard forever. You survived, and now you are allowed to live. Pain point 3, emotional numbing and dissociation, when feeling less was safer than feeling more. One of the assertive myths about trauma is that it always makes people too emotional. In reality, trauma often does the opposite. It teaches people to stop feeling, or more accurately, to feel less. Emotional numbing and dissociation are not signs of apathy, coldness, or lack of care. They are protective adaptations. They emerge when emotions were overwhelming, unsafe, ignored, punished, or weaponized. When feeling became dangerous, the nervous system learned how to turn the volume down. Why numbing develops. If a child expresses sadness and is mocked, ignored, or told to stop crying, the nervous system learns sadness is unsafe. If anger leads to punishment or abandonment, the system learns anger is dangerous. If fear is met with dismissal or ridicule, the system learns I'm alone with this. So the mind adapts. Instead of feeling deeply and being hurt, it chooses distance. Instead of processing pain, it suppresses sensation. This is not a conscious decision, it is an automatic one. The nervous system decides that less feeling equals more safety. What emotional numbing feels like. Emotional numbing can be subtle. It doesn't always feel like emptiness. Sometimes it feels like neutrality, sometimes like fog, sometimes like functioning without depth. People often describe it as, I know I should feel something, but I don't. I feel flat. I'm disconnected from myself. I feel like I'm watching my life instead of living it. I don't know what I feel. Numbing can coexist with anxiety. It can coexist with competence. It can coexist with success. This is why it's often overlooked. Dissociation explained clearly. Dissociation is the nervous system's way of creating distance from overwhelming experience. When the body cannot escape physically, the mind escapes internally. Dissociation exists on a spectrum. Zoning out, daydreaming, going blank, losing track of time, feeling unreal, feeling detached from the body, emotional shutdown during conflict. At its core, dissociation is about distance. Distance from pain, distance from memory, distance from sensation. It is the mind saying, this is too much. Why dissociation is not a failure. Dissociation often saved lives. It allowed people to endure chronic neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual trauma, prolonged stress, environments with no escape. Without dissociation, the nervous system would overload. So dissociation is not weakness, it is resilience under impossible conditions. The problem is not that dissociation exists, the problem is when it becomes the default. The cost of long-term numbing. While numbing reduces pain, it also reduces pleasure. People who numb often struggle with joy, intimacy, motivation, creativity, meaning, connection. They may say, I feel alive only in extremes. So they seek stimulation, chaos, intense relationships, substances, overworking, risk, constant distraction, because numbness is unbearable in its own way. Why feelings come back all at once. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They wait. And when the nervous system feels even slightly safer, they can surge. This is why people sometimes break down after the danger has passed. The body finally says, now we can feel. This release can feel frightening, but it is not regression. It is integration trying to happen, relearning emotional safety. Healing emotional numbing is not about forcing feelings. It is about permission. Permission to feel slowly. Permission to feel in pieces. Permission to stop when it's too much. Emotions are sensations before they are stories. So healing begins in the body. A gentle reconnection practice. Instead of asking, what do I feel? Ask, what do I notice in my body right now? Tightness, heaviness, warmth, numbness, pressure. There is no wrong answer. Name the sensation. Breathe into it. Stay for a few seconds. That is enough. You are teaching your nervous system that feeling does not equal danger. An important truth. You do not need to feel everything at once to heal. You only need to feel enough to stay present. Healing is about range, not intensity. Pain point 4. Trauma and self-worth. When pain becomes personal. One of the deepest wounds trauma leaves behind is damage to self-worth. Not confidence, Not self-esteem, worth. Self-worth is the belief I matter without earning it. Trauma often destroys this belief, especially when trauma occurs in relationships where safety and love were supposed to exist. Why trauma becomes self-blame. When something painful happens, the mind looks for meaning. Adults can contextualize trauma. This person was unwell. This situation was unsafe. This wasn't my fault. Children cannot. Children personalize. If a caregiver is absent, abusive, cold, or inconsistent, the child cannot say, "This adult is incapable." Instead, the child says, "It must be me." This belief is devastating, but logical. Believing I'm the problem preserves hope. Because if you are the problem, then maybe you can fix it. If the adult is the problem, then you are powerless. So the child chooses self-blame to survive emotionally. How shame forms. Shame is not just feeling bad about what happened. Shame is feeling bad about who you are. Trauma teaches shame through humiliation, criticism, neglect, comparison, rejection, silence, emotional abandonment. Over time, shame becomes internalized. You don't need someone to tell you you're not enough. You tell yourself automatically. How low self-worth shows up. Trauma-based low self-worth often appears as people-pleasing, over-apologizing, fear of being a burden, difficulty asking for help, staying in unhealthy relationships, tolerating disrespect, overworking to earn value, harsh inner criticism, minimizing your own pain, feeling unlovable unless useful. You may appear confident externally. Internally, you feel conditional, loved only if you perform, accepted only if you don't need too much. The difference between guilt and shame. This matters. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. Trauma installs shame, and shame drives behavior far more powerfully than logic. People don't change because they understand trauma. They change when shame loosens. Why shame resists reassurance. If someone tells you you're enough and you don't believe them, that's not stubbornness, it's conditioning. Your nervous system learned a different truth early on, and early truths feel permanent. So reassurance bounces off. Healing requires experience, not affirmation. Rebuilding self-worth slowly and honestly. Self-worth is not built by hype. It is built by consistency, by treating yourself as someone who matters repeatedly. This includes resting without earning it, setting boundaries without apologizing, choosing environments that respect you, noticing when you abandon yourself, speaking to yourself without cruelty, allowing your needs to exist. Each act of self-respect is a small repair. You don't need to feel worthy first. You act worthy, and the feeling follows. A powerful reframe. You are not too sensitive. You are sensitive in an insensitive environment. You are not too much. You are unmet. You are not unworthy. You are unsupported. Trauma lies. Healing tells the truth slowly. A grounding self-worth exercise. Once per day, complete this sentence. I approve of myself for not achievements, not productivity, something human, resting, setting a boundary, being honest, surviving a hard moment, choosing kindness, asking for help. Approval is the antidote to shame. One final truth about self-worth. Nothing you endured was proof that you were unworthy. It was proof that you were vulnerable in a world that did not protect you. And vulnerability is not a flaw. It is a human trait that deserves care. Pain point 5. Attachment wounds. When love feels unsafe or unreliable. Trauma does not only affect how you feel about yourself, it affects how you attach to others. Attachment is the way your nervous system experiences closeness. It answers questions like, is it safe to rely on someone? Will I be abandoned if I need too much? Do I lose myself if I get close? Can I trust consistency? When early attachment was disrupted by trauma, love stops feeling like rest and starts feeling like risk. How attachment wounds form. Attachment develops in the earliest relationships. If caregivers are emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, frightening, neglectful, intrusive, inconsistent, the child's nervous system adapts. It learns that closeness comes with threat, so attachment becomes defensive. The two dominant trauma-based attachment patterns. While attachment exists on a spectrum, trauma often pushes people toward extremes. Anxious attachment. Anxious attachment forms when love was inconsistent. The nervous system learned, I must stay close or I'll be left. This can show up as fear of abandonment, hyper-focus on relationships, sensitivity to distance, reassurance seeking, overthinking communication, feeling panicked by silence, difficulty being alone. Underneath this pattern is a deep fear. If I'm not needed, I'll disappear. Avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment forms when closeness felt overwhelming, intrusive, or unsafe. The nervous system learned, I must stay independent to stay safe. This can show up as discomfort with emotional dependence, withdrawal during conflict, minimizing needs, difficulty expressing vulnerability, valuing control and self-sufficiency, feeling smothered by intimacy. Underneath this pattern is a different fear. If I let you close, I'll lose myself or get hurt. Many trauma survivors oscillate between both, craving closeness but fearing it at the same time. Why attachment wounds feel so intense. Attachment pain activates survival circuitry. For a child, attachment is survival. Each act of self-respect is a small repair. You don't need to feel worthy first. You act worthy, and the feeling follows. A powerful reframe. You are not too sensitive. You are sensitive in an insensitive environment. You are not too much. You are unmet. You are not unworthy. You are unsupported. Trauma lies. Healing tells the truth slowly. A grounding self-worth exercise. Once per day, complete this sentence. I approve of myself for not achievements, not productivity, something human, resting, setting a boundary, being honest, surviving a hard moment, choosing kindness, asking for help. Approval is the antidote to shame. One final truth about self-worth. Nothing you endured was proof that you were unworthy. It was proof that you were vulnerable in a world that did not protect you. And vulnerability is not a flaw. It is a human trait that deserves care. Pain point 5. Attachment wounds. When love feels unsafe or unreliable. Trauma does not only affect how you feel about yourself, it affects how you attach to others. Attachment is the way your nervous system experiences closeness. It answers questions like, is it safe to rely on someone? Will I be abandoned if I need too much? Do I lose myself if I get close? Can I trust consistency? When early attachment was disrupted by trauma, love stops feeling like rest and starts feeling like risk. How attachment wounds form. Attachment develops in the earliest relationships. If caregivers are emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, frightening, neglectful, intrusive, inconsistent, the child's nervous system adapts. It learns that closeness comes with threat, so attachment becomes defensive. The two dominant trauma-based attachment patterns. While attachment exists on a spectrum, trauma often pushes people toward extremes. Anxious attachment. Anxious attachment forms when love was inconsistent. The nervous system learned, I must stay close or I'll be left. This can show up as fear of abandonment, hyper-focus on relationships, sensitivity to distance, reassurance seeking, overthinking communication, feeling panicked by silence, difficulty being alone. Underneath this pattern is a deep fear. If I'm not needed, I'll disappear. Avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment forms when closeness felt overwhelming, intrusive, or unsafe. The nervous system learned, I must stay independent to stay safe. This can show up as discomfort with emotional dependence, withdrawal during conflict, minimizing needs, difficulty expressing vulnerability, valuing control and self-sufficiency, feeling smothered by intimacy. Underneath this pattern is a different fear. If I let you close, I'll lose myself or get hurt. Many trauma survivors oscillate between both, craving closeness but fearing it at the same time. Why attachment wounds feel so intense? Attachment pain activates survival circuitry. For a child, attachment is survival. Pain point 6. Repetition compulsion. Recreating the unfinished story. One of the most confusing trauma patterns is repetition. People often ask, why do I keep ending up in the same situations? Why do I attract the same kinds of people? Why do I repeat what hurt me? The answer is not self-destruction. It is unfinished business. What repetition compulsion is the unconscious drive to recreate familiar dynamics in an attempt to resolve them. Your nervous system seeks what it knows, even when what it knows is painful. This happens because the brain prefers predictability over safety. Predictable pain feels manageable. Unfamiliar peace feels uncertain. Why the brain repeats trauma. Trauma memories are often unprocessed. They live as sensations, emotions, and reflexes, not stories. So the nervous system keeps trying to complete the experience. If I can finally make this person love me, if I can finally get closure, if I can finally fix it. But the problem is, you often choose people who can't give what you needed, not because you want to suffer, but because they match the original template. Familiarity disguised as chemistry. Repetition compulsion often feels like attraction. You feel drawn to emotionally unavailable people, critical people, chaotic people, controlling people, people who withhold affection. This draw is not intuition, it is recognition. Your nervous system says, I know this terrain. That familiarity creates intensity. Intensity gets mistaken for connection. Intermittent reinforcement and trauma bonds. One of the most powerful mechanisms in trauma repetition is intermittent reinforcement. When love is inconsistent, the nervous system becomes addicted. Just like a slot machine, occasional reward keeps you hooked. You stay because sometimes it feels good. Sometimes they show up. Sometimes you feel chosen. The unpredictability strengthens the bond. This is not romance, it is conditioning. Why leaving feels impossible. Leaving a trauma-based dynamic can feel harder than staying, because leaving triggers grief, loss of hope, abandonment wounds, identity disruption. You are not just leaving a person, you are leaving the fantasy that this time will be different, and that is painful. How repetition affects self-worth. Each repeated trauma reinforces shame. You may think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I learn? Why do I keep choosing this? But repetition is not a moral failure. It is a nervous system loop. Awareness breaks the loop. Interrupting repetition compulsion. You interrupt repetition by slowing down. Trauma thrives on speed. Healing requires pacing. Before entering or continuing a dynamic, ask, does this feel familiar or safe? Am I calm or activated? Am I trying to earn something? Am I abandoning myself? Patterns reveal themselves when you pause, choosing values over chemistry. One of the hardest lessons in trauma healing is this: chemistry is not a measure of compatibility. Trauma-based chemistry is often a trauma echo. Values-based attraction feels quieter. It feels stable. It feels less urgent. At first, it may feel boring. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It means your nervous system is learning something new. A grounding practice to break repetition. When you feel pulled toward a familiar but unhealthy dynamic, try this. Name 3 qualities you needed as a child that were missing. Then ask, is this person capable of providing these consistently? Not occasionally, consistently. This brings clarity. One final truth about repetition. You are not repeating trauma because you are broken. You are repeating it because your system is trying to heal without guidance. With awareness, support, and new experiences, the pattern can end. Pain point 7. Anger, people-pleasing, and boundaries when self-protection becomes invisible. Trauma does not remove anger, it reshapes it. For some people, anger becomes explosive. For others, it disappears completely. Both are trauma responses. Anger is a boundary emotion. It signals violation, threat, or injustice. But when expressing anger was unsafe, punished, or ignored, the nervous system learned to reroute it. Instead of anger, it chose compliance. Instead of self-protection, it chose appeasement. Instead of boundaries, it chose survival. The 4 trauma responses revisited. Trauma responses are not personality traits. They are automatic survival strategies. Fight, anger, defensiveness, control, aggression. Flight, avoidance, perfectionism, overworking, staying busy. Freeze, shutdown, dissociation, indecision, numbness. Fawn, people-pleasing, appeasing, caretaking, losing self. Many trauma survivors rely heavily on fawn, not because they are kind, but because kindness once kept them safe. Why people-pleasing develops. People-pleasing forms when saying no caused punishment, expressing needs caused rejection, disagreement led to withdrawal, love was conditional. The nervous system learned, if I make others happy, I stay safe. So you became agreeable, helpful, accommodating, easygoing, at the cost of yourself. The hidden anger beneath people-pleasing. Suppressed anger does not disappear, it turns inward. It becomes resentment, self-criticism, burnout, emotional exhaustion, passive aggression, sudden emotional collapse. People who never get angry often carry the most unexpressed rage, not because they are cruel, but because they were never allowed to protect themselves. Why boundaries feel terrifying. Boundaries feel dangerous when your nervous system associates them with loss. If early boundaries led to abandonment, punishment, ridicule, emotional withdrawal, then boundaries trigger fear. Fear disguises itself as guilt. You think, I'm being selfish, I'm overreacting, I'll hurt them, I'll be abandoned. So you stay silent. And silence becomes self-erasure. The cost of boundarylessness. Without boundaries, relationships become unsafe. You may overgive, feel used, feel unseen, feel invisible, feel resentful, feel exhausted, feel disconnected. And then you blame yourself for feeling that way. But boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. Relearning anger safely. Healthy anger is not violence, it is information. It says, this matters, this crossed the line, I need something to change. Relearning anger means noticing irritation early, naming discomfort before it explodes, allowing anger to exist without action, separating anger from harm. You are allowed to feel angry without becoming dangerous. Practicing boundaries in small ways. You do not start with big confrontations. You start with micro boundaries. I need time to think. I can't do that right now. That doesn't work for me. I'm not comfortable with this. Expect discomfort. That discomfort is old fear, not present danger. Each boundary teaches your nervous system, I can protect myself and still be okay. A grounding boundary exercise. Before saying yes, pause. Ask, do I want to do this? Do I have capacity? Am I afraid of consequences? What would happen if I said no? Then choose consciously. Boundaries are not reactions, they are decisions. One final truth about anger and boundaries. Anger does not make you bad. Boundaries do not make you selfish. They make you whole. Pain point 8. Healing trauma. Regulation, integration, and reclaiming choice. Healing trauma is not about erasing the past. It is about changing how the past lives in the present. Trauma healing does not mean you never get triggered. It means triggers no longer control your behavior. Healing is not a moment. It is a process of regulation, integration, and reconnection. Why trauma healing must include the body. Trauma is stored in the nervous system. Talking alone is often not enough. You cannot think your way out of a bodily response. You must teach the body that it is safe now. This is why trauma healing focuses on breath, sensation, movement, rhythm, connection. Safety is a felt experience. Regulation, calming the nervous system. Regulation is the foundation of healing. Without regulation, insight cannot stick. Regulation includes slow breathing with long exhales, grounding through the senses, gentle movement, predictable routines, adequate rest, hydration, nutrition, safe touch, soothing sound. These are not self-care trends, they are biological needs. Integration, making sense of the past. Integration means turning trauma from a lived emergency into a remembered event. This happens when emotions are felt without overwhelm, memories are processed with support, shame is named and challenged, meaning is reconstructed. The goal is not forgetting, it is remembering without reliving. Connection, the final ingredient. Trauma often happened in relationship. Healing happens in relationship too. Safe connection teaches the nervous system, I am not alone. I can be seen without being harmed. I can depend without losing myself. This includes therapy, friendships, support groups, healthy romantic relationships, community. Isolation maintains trauma. Connection softens it. What healing actually looks like. Healing looks like pausing instead of reacting, noticing emotions without being consumed, choosing healthier people, tolerating calm, resting without guilt, trusting your perception, setting boundaries, feeling emotions without drowning. Healing is subtle. It is not dramatic. It is choosing differently, again and again. A simple daily healing routine. 10 minutes is enough. 2 minutes of slow breathing. 2 minutes of body awareness. 3 minutes of reflection. 3 minutes of intentional regulation. Consistency matters more than intensity. Letting go of the old identity. Many people unconsciously cling to trauma identities. The strong one, the independent one, the caretaker, the survivor. Healing can feel like loss because those identities once kept you alive. You don't have to erase them. You just don't have to live inside them anymore. Reclaiming choice. Trauma takes choice away. Healing restores it. Choice to rest. Choice to leave. Choice to stay. Choice to speak. Choice to be silent. Choice to trust. Choice to protect yourself. Choice is freedom. A closing truth. Your trauma responses were intelligent adaptations. They were not flaws. They were solutions. And you do not need to hate them to outgrow them. You can thank them, you can honor them, and you can gently choose something better. Healing does not mean becoming someone new. It means becoming yourself without fear running the system.